So I did a video on the Samsung Q90t highlighting some of the benefits of a QLED, but it wasn't a direct comparison of an OLED versus a QLED. But I'm going to go over that here, both sides of that coin, and help you decide which one's best, and it's no contest. What's up, it's B the Installer. I've been around a few TVs here and there, helped a few tens of thousands of people help pick their TV, and I'm here to help you get yours. I'm going to go over the very best of the OLED TV and technology, the LG C10, the Sony A8H, even the Vizio OLED H1, and compare that against the QLED TV technology like the Samsung Q90t, the Sony X900H, and even the Hisense H9G and others. And at the end, I'm going to make sense of it from an end user perspective. Because I get asked questions like, should I buy an LG C10 77-inch or a Samsung Q90t 85-inch? Or even questions like, should I buy a Sony A8H OLED or a Sony X900H? Basically, the smaller OLED versus a bigger QLED, and a lot of people have these questions in the real world. So make sure to subscribe and ring the bell as usual. And a new thing you can do is actually go to my website at socalinstalls.com, linked below, and sign up to get the newsletter with your email, name, address, all that kind of stuff, because we're getting to the end of 2020 here, and I got a lot of TVs sitting in my house, and hopefully next year I'll be able to give some of these TVs away to the subscribers. So the only way to do that is if I have your information, so lock it in, get the newsletter, and get all the updates on that. And make sure to smash the like button if you like the video. If you don't, smash the dislike button. Either way, smash something. Questions, comments down below. So QLED versus OLED. It seems to be the question that we have to answer before we can even get into the question of which TV of each one to get. So since I want to be fair, we're going to flip a coin to figure out which one goes first. Heads, OLED, tails, QLED. It's going to be OLED. So OLED TVs are pretty stylish. They have really thin screens, but the TVs themselves are still about 2 inches thick. But you gotta hand it to them, they have a pretty sleek and stylish design. But how do they get the TV that thin? Well, it's because of the OLED, the organic light immersion diodes, which are all independent of each other, slapped on a panel. And each of the 8 million pixels can be turned on or off when the current either hits them or not. And as I said, that's a technology that can be very thin and even rolled up and folded in half. But for consumer panels, we aren't quite there yet unless you have some major cash. But I hear from many clients and subscribers that they just really want to own an OLED TV. But let's be real, the thin screen is not the main reason for the popularity of the OLED TV. The main reason OLED was and still is the white whale of TVs for many people is really because of the perfect blacks or the infinite contrast, because of that pixel level control of the image. And it's not just the contrast, but the amazing colors as well. The definition and amazing depth of an OLED, especially in darker environments and scenes, is really quite breathtaking, and is why many people say once you go OLED, you never go back. However, others may beg to differ. So let's double back on the technology. So the TV looks cool and the pixels can be controlled on an individual basis. So should you be worried about every single pixel working properly or not? Well, one perceived downside that very few people experience, but almost everybody is concerned about, is the potential for burn-in. A lot of people say, if I'm going to buy a $3,000 TV, I don't want to have to worry about burn-in on a daily basis. So while it may not be common, the fear of it is real. But should you be worried? For the most part, I don't think so. As I said, this technology is quite amazing, and as time has gone on, companies have made improvements and fail-safes, such as pixel refreshing that calms down the screens after a certain amount of usage. Also, you have the ability to decrease the luminance of the entire TV or just of logos to reduce this concern, as well as adding screensavers that you should definitely engage if you're leaving the TV on all the time. So as I said, I'm not concerned about burn-in, and with these added features, I don't think you should be either. But the other thing that I hear about OLED TVs is that sometimes the brightness can be a bit underwhelming. It's clear that an OLED is not quite as bright as a great QLED TV, but the perfect blacks on the OLED demands less brightness in a dark room, or even in an averagely lit room. And in these rooms, the LG C10 and the Sony A8H look amazing, and it's really tough to challenge that. But what about a bright room or a room with windows? The room where you watch a TV can have as much or more effect on the OLED's ability to perform than the TV itself. I made a video complaining about the LG C10 specifically because I was upset about how my new room was handling the light. And I did make the point that it was a change in ambient light that really hurt the performance of my OLED, but that doesn't mean it's not a real issue or that others don't need this type of advice too. So though OLEDs handle reflection decently and have fantastic viewing from extreme angles, at the end of the day, or maybe in the middle of the day, you just have to know where the TV is going. in a dark room or a bright room. And when speaking about brightness, now that's the main strength of a great QLED TV like the Samsung Q90t. And I actually went over this very favorably for the QLED on my Samsung Q90t video, but now it's time to be a little tougher on the technology. The QLED, which is called quantum dot LED, is a bit of a wordsmith on what it actually does, because it's really just like a normal LED with these quantum dots that it blasts the light through and gives you a little bit more shine. So it's really like LED++. And you still have LED lights pushing through layers, and that makes for a thicker TV screen than an OLED. But some of the best QLEDs, like the Samsung Q90T, are actually a bit thinner overall than the OLEDs. But again, I don't want to get off topic because the really juicy info is the picture quality. Because the Samsung Q90T and better are really, really bright TVs, and that has real world value for millions of people that buy QLED TVs. And the very best QLEDs, even the Samsung Q90T that doesn't even have Dolby Vision and HDR, still outperforms many of these OLED TVs when you're at full brightness or in bright rooms. And in addition to brightness, companies like Samsung and Sony have added layers and technology to get the contrast closer to the black levels of the OLEDs. So when you have a massive amount of light and it's just wide open, it may not serve a purpose. But when it's directed and layered with microscopic barriers allowing certain color through, the case for brightness and crazy rich colors can be pretty exciting. But again, I gave the Samsung Q90T all its dues in the last video, so check it out if you want to see it. And another upside on the QLED TVs is there's no risk for burn-in, because you're just pushing light through the screen and you're not putting stress on the individual pixels like you are on an OLED. So it can be very calming to know that your QLED TV won't have that issue. So a super bright screen and no burn-in? I mean, that's an obvious winner, right? Well, again, maybe it depends on where you're gonna be and what you're gonna be watching. One downside of LED and now QLED TVs is the bleeding of the backlight into the areas where it's not supposed to be. Let's call it blooming. And blooming is annoying if you're going to be watching TV in the dark. Now the FALD or full array local dimming TVs have made it better over the edge-lit TVs. I had a Samsung KS8000 and it's actually been kind of hard to replace that TV since it wowed me so much. But that TV was lit from the edge and it didn't have local dimming zones like the newer QLEDs have. So people do these local dimming and blooming tests to expose how bad the backlight bleed is from one QLED to another and to show how OLEDs are superior to QLEDs. But again, it comes down to what type of room you're going to be in and what are you watching. And if you're not picking up on a theme yet, I'm going to give you a couple more examples of the little differences between these two concepts before I get to the end and just give you the answers. I want to give you just a couple more of the main talking points that are debated to further differentiate these TVs besides just the superior brightness of a QLED or the infinite contrast of an OLED. One of the things that you have to find the lesser of two evils is when you're speaking about black crush on an OLED versus blooming on a QLED. When talking about OLEDs, some speak of black crush. This is where an OLED has a hard time showing just above black, because for black the pixel is just off. But giving it 1 or 2% light to show the difference of super dark gray areas, it's really hard to do for an OLED. But because a QLED has crazy light standing by even in dark scenes, you can definitely see shadow detail better in real life in a QLED. So now you have great shadow detail in some areas, but the light actually bleeds into other areas where it's supposed to be pitch dark. So when you're in a dark room, we really have to start talking about picking from the flaws. Are you mad to lose the detail in the shadows, or does blooming bother you? And even though black crush can be a bit of an issue on an OLED, it's not the same for the rest of the tones and color. Most other areas on the OLED have amazing definition and detail, and even in a normal or a dark room, you still get great highlights and detail on the high end. But as you add more ambient light, or you have a scene where it's just a very full, bright screen, then you can see where the OLED starts to be limited by the ABL of the TV, the auto brightness limiter. This can be the underwhelming part, but you really don't notice it when you have such great contrast. But the QLED with its blinding brightness loses some of those highlights in a blur of light. So you get the pleasure of shielding your eyes as the epic scenes come to a climax, but you really don't get to see anything. It's just another example of not being able to control the light perfectly, similar to blooming, but on the high side. And of course, you could micromanage the black levels and the brightness on both sets, but on every technology you have some pros and cons. So really we're back to no contest. And why do I keep saying that? The reason is because the answer of the QLED versus the OLED isn't really solved. It's an example of two parallel technologies for a reason, even though it's polarizing. And that reason is both technologies need to exist because they do different things for different people. They offer different benefits and different weaknesses. So this really shouldn't be a conversation of which technology is better, but really about which technology will be better for you in your home, your room, and for what content you're going to watch or game. If you're in a room with lots of windows or you watch TV in the daytime, specifically regular cable, bright and vibrant sports, and especially if you watch news or you game with static content all day, then there's a strong case to be made in getting a great QLED like the Samsung Q90t, because it's just a lot brighter, and in addition it handles reflections really well. And whether you believe in burn-in or not, it's not going to hurt you with the Samsung Q90t. And many people in that situation find the OLED TV like the LG C10 doesn't handle reflections well enough, and that the brightness of these OLED TV is just insufficient during the day with bright content, especially when you're fighting direct sunlight opposing your screen. And it's really hard for that technology to compete unless you get blacked out curtains or you just watch TV or game at night. So in these bright conditions or watching this very bright and vibrant content, this is where you'd want to get the larger or better QLED TV for the money to benefit from their advantages of these types of room and this type of content. On the other hand, if you're looking to get a TV for a home theater room or gaming in a bedroom or watch a lot of nighttime TV in the living room and you've been eyeing that OLED, you'll be very happy. Even if the TV might be slightly smaller, size doesn't always matter. Okay, it does. But they have the perfect black and infinite contrast that can really be appreciated in the darker rooms or even in an averagely lit room. And that's where full screen peak brightness matters a lot less. At night, the LG C10 and the Sony A8H still are nearly blinding for me. And even the very best QLED TVs like the Samsung Q90t have some blooming and leaking of light because it's backlit. So the Sony A8H and the LG C10 OLEDs, with the amazing technology being able to light up 8 million different pixels all individually, along with the processing of those amazing chips, really gives you a perfect viewing experience in the dark. In the end, when you're talking about the LG C10 versus the Samsung Q90t, you're talking about two great technologies, two great TVs. One that is blinding bright with a little leaking of the light into the black background, and the other has amazing colors and contrast, and you'll lose a little pop in bright rooms, but it dominates in a dark room. And the worst case is you buy one now, and if it doesn't work out for you, you just take it back because you use the big box stores for your benefit. I mean, I do. I hope this information has been useful. Definitely smash the like button. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you get videos like this. And again, remember to hit the links up in my description, find my website, get on there, sign up, get involved, and make sure you're prepared. When I give these TVs away, you can get one. And just remember, with my help, you can be the installer.